I have a story to share. Tonight, I was at a Christmas party a week ago, and a friend shared about a time where he got a Christmas box for somebody because he wanted to put a gift in it, and he specifically found a Let It Snow box. The Dollar General, I think it was, and he went, bought the box, brought it into his car, and when he looked at the box again, he realized, hold on, there's something wrong here. He looks over, it says, Mons to tell. Mons to tell. Well, that doesn't make any sense. He takes the box back into the Dollar General, goes up to the cashier and says, I'm sorry, but this is in a different language. Could you get me the English version? Well, maybe you figured it out, but the cashier saw this. Mons to tell. Let it snow upside down. You better believe I gave my friend a hard time for this. He ain't living it down. Why do I share that with you tonight? Well, in Christmas time, in life, and especially this year, it can be really easy to want to return on life. Because we've had a rough year, many of us, most of us, all of us. Some of us want to return on faith. We've tried it out. We've done the church thing. Take it back. We're done with it. But I want to suggest to you tonight that the reason why we potentially want to return on our faith, return on life, is because maybe we have it all upside down. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a different perspective tonight in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, just to talk through what I think that God has said life, faith, is all about. And I'm glad you're here with us in this journey because it is a journey. It's not something you can figure out all in one night, and that's why we do this week in and week out at church, is we come together to figure these things out together. And in this journey tonight, I want to ask about what is faith, what is the right way of seeing faith if we potentially have it upside down. But we first have to see what ways do we have it upside down. And to be honest, we have a lot of questions about that because our culture and the stories we have in our culture have a lot of different ways to explain faith. Some of our favorite are the Christmas stories and the Christmas movies that we grew up with. So I'm going to give you some of my top favorite Christmas movies that I grew up with. I'm sorry, Die Hard isn't one of them for those Die Hard fans. It's not a Christmas movie. But anyways, the first is Elf. Everyone loves Elf, right? Yeah, we love Will Ferrell being a boy growing up in the North Pole and him realizing he doesn't quite belong, and so he goes on this journey to find his real family, and it turns out to be this grumpy old man, right? And then they get on this journey together, and Elf, Buddy, finally finds that he has to save Christmas. And he has to save Christmas how? By getting people to believe in Santa Claus. And so belief in the Buddy, the elf story is belief in somebody, belief in a person. That's what that story is about. Second movie that is one of my favorites, Home Alone. Oh, yeah, we gotta love Home Alone, right? So Kevin McAllister left at home to fight against the wet bandits, right? And he has to somehow do this with the help of his grumpy old man neighbor. Grumpy old man is a theme in Christmas movies. Have you ever noticed that? But yeah, he has to team up with this guy. And you remember this scene in this church where Kevin goes in, and you can tell he's having a faith moment, right? Where he's about to go into battle against the bad guys, and faith for him is possibly a cry for help. When all else seems like I can't fight against these guys by myself, I need help. That's what faith is for him. Finally, have to mention this one, the OG of old grumpy man, Scrooge. The classic, right? But not just any Scrooge. You got to go with the Muppets Christmas Carol, the only Christmas Carol of all time, right? Yes, we love the Muppets Christmas Carol, especially as the Muppets sing along to help Scrooge find and change his destiny. And Marley sing, these guys, sing to Scrooge. They sing, as freedom comes from giving love, so prison comes with hate. And they do the Marley and Marley, right? Woo, right? So they do that, and they tell Scrooge that his faith must be enough to change him from one destiny to another. That's what faith is a changing of your life direction, of one faith to another. And I gotta say, with all of these ideas of faith out there in our Christmas stories, I'm gonna ask with Charlie Brown a little different question, but does anyone know what faith is all about? Does anyone know what faith is all about? And like Linus, who answers this question, he returns to the original story of Christmas that we just had read for us tonight. And I'm just going to focus on one little verse. The last one we read said this: "Blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her from the Lord." That word believe is faith. And what is faith for Mary? Well, it's not a Buddy the Elf type of faith. Mary doesn't believe in some person she can't see. She's sitting face to face with an angel of the Lord. She can see right in front of him. And it's not a somehow cry for help. We don't think that Mary is in any kind of particular danger. So she's not the Home Alone faith. She's not even trying to change her eternal destiny like Scrooge might be. There's something else going on here all completely. Let me give you a potential summary of what faith Mary is holding on to, what Mary's faith looks like, and maybe that will help us here. What does Mary's faith look like in this story? It consists in three simple things. The first one was terror, utter fear, because an angel of the Lord just showed up. Second thing we see Mary do is ask, huh? Because she had no idea what the angel was talking about. And the third, she says a Beatles line. Well, the Beatles got it from her, but let it be, right? So that is her act of faith in this story. And you gotta admit, that's not a whole lot to go on. Mary's not doing a whole lot in this story. But guess who is? God is up to a lot in this story. God is becoming a fetus in the womb of a teenager. Whoa, that's crazy. Talk about that when you get home. On top of that, he's making it pretty known to everyone who is involved who that baby is, sending angels out to do that. And he's promising protection. He's promising care and protection over this family. And finally, we don't read this in the story, but we get that today, that he is orchestrating the story in such a way that we, 2,000 years later, would be able to celebrate it on a night like tonight. God is up to a lot, and a lot more than I just mentioned. So what is faith? If Mary is said, blessed is she who believed, who had faith, perhaps faith is something a little bit like receiving a gift. Maybe like receiving all of that God has done. It's a little bit less about what I can do for God or what I can muster up on my own strength, and a little bit more about how much I can receive from God. My paraphrase of this verse would be that Elizabeth is telling her cousin, hey, you got the best gift at the first ever Christmas party. Good job at receiving it. Like, that's literally what she is saying here. And think about it this way. I said to pay attention during this thing, right? With the Christmas trees and all of that, the pennies. Your kids were given pennies for a reason. Because we in our life, we are very transactionary people. I made up the word transactionary, don't look it up in the dictionary, but it means, I'm allowed to make up words, right? Transactionary basically means that we live lives where transactions are normal. Where I give you something, you give me something. I give you money, you give me food. I give you rent, you give me shelter. I give you friendship, you give me friendship. I give you love, you give me love. We are used to transactions in our everyday life. You give me a Christmas present, I give you a thank you card, right? All these things. And then what God does is utterly crazy. He plops down into history and he says, here's your present. No need to give me anything back. But God, I could like go to church or something. I could do something really nice and like serve in the choir or give a gift to the pastor or something. Like, I got to give you something because that's what we're used to, the transactions. But God merely says, here is my gift. The question is not, what are you going to give me for it? The question is, are you going to receive it? That's the question of the Christmas story of faith. And now, so what is this? What is the present that God gives us? Well, in the verse, it says, blessed. Blessed is she who believes. Well, what's blessed? Like hashtag blessed, like the South, bless your heart, you know? What is blessed? Well, blessing has nothing to do with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Sorry. Blessing for Mary is not even going to be a life that's really happy and Instagram worthy. Blessing for Mary is going to be really hard. She is going to have to watch her son, firstborn son, grow up knowing that she would be taken from him someday. That he would die on a cross, a terrible death. And she would be mocked for it. She would be shamed for it because in that day, if you had a child by somebody that wasn't your husband, you were an outcast. That was the blessedness of Mary. So I don't think it was like a happy life that Elizabeth is saying, hey, you're going to have a great life here. No. The blessedness of Mary was that she would live her days knowing that God in the flesh, Jesus, would be part of her family and would smile at her when she came in the room and would hug her with his very arms. That's the blessedness of Mary. And guess what, everyone? That's the blessedness that you and I get to receive because of Jesus. Emmanuel, God with us. That's the gift. God with us. And not just like Santa Claus is with us, like creepily watching everything we do, right? It's not that. It is God with us as a family member. You know the mom from Home Alone, how much she went through to spend like 10 hours in the car with those tuba player polka people in the back of that truck just to get to her son? And how much Buddy the Elf went through to get to his grumpy old man. You know this. He went through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest and the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops and walked through the Lincoln Tunnel just to get to his old man. Why? Because of family. And those stories warm our hearts because they are only echoes of the truer, greater story about God and you. About God spanning the infinite depths of heaven to come to live and die for you so you may be part of his family. So faith is not a whole lot about doing things for God. And blessedness is not really about a happy, good life. But if we turn those things upside down to what they really are about, faith being about receiving, blessedness being about living every day in the joyful presence of our Savior, that makes all the difference. Because we're no longer trying to give back to God. We're no longer trying to give transactions to God. Like, I'll do this for you, God, if you do that for me. Hey, I'll come to church if you smile on me a little extra this year. No. This upside down world, what would it look like? Here's what it looks like. Imagine spending your entire day with Buddy the Elf. a bundle of infinite joy and love, just spending his day adventuring with you. He can turn the most grumpy old man person into this guy who smiles and loves Christmas. Do you know, can you imagine the joy and the happiness and the laughter of God when he spends time with you? Just imagine how much God just delights in hanging out with you. That is great love. It brings great joy in everything that you do. Imagine always having by your side that old man from Home Alone who you turn out is very kind, but also very protecting. Do you need to be scared of those guys who are out to get you? You got this guy by your side at all times. What peace. What peace. And imagine, like Scrooge, you had a spirit, an eternal spirit who is with you at all times, constantly reminding you that your fate is not going to be in chains, but your fate is going to be in glory. What hope. What hope that is. And folks, that is what life with Jesus is like. We need in this weary world hope, peace, joy, love. And the only way we can get that is not with trying to give God something, but with open arms, faith, receiving these. And here's the craziest, best thing about all of it, is because it's a gift, a free gift that God gives to you. Nothing you do can screw it up. Ain't that good news? It says that nothing can separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. It's a gift that we could have forever for those who receive. That is what faith is all about.